Hello and welcome to Taku Katsu. Well, this is a show where we talk about anime new and old. And this time we got something 23 years old from this recording. Great teacher Onizuka, otherwise known as GTO. Let's introduce our first delinquent, Vicky.
Udanchi live in the shadows.
Oh, and then we've got our dry juice champion, Patrick.
You know what? I'm the responsible one. I already got my shop made up. I am no longer a delinquent, let's say.
And I'm your reformed, self-reformed, college-educated or educated, partially educated karate champion. I am your great teacher, Cori. So we are going to start today. We're going to talk about great teacher Onizuka. I can do a little history unless somebody wants to throw in some information. All right, that means me. So Great Teacher Onizuka is an anime from 1999. And it looks like a 1999 hand-drawn anime, which is both good and less good. I'm sure Vicky will have her opinions.
Do I?
And so what makes Great Teacher Onizuka really, really interesting is that there's a manga that follows the entire story, but GTO is like the middle chapter. It's just this whole like middle chapter of Onizuka being a teacher and doing teacher stuff. And I had never read the manga. I just knew about it afterwards. And then there's a part after, there's a part before, and the part before, assumably, I'm pretty confident it is all about him being a gangster. Well, basically a delinquent in the Japanese sense of like in a literal biker gang beating people up. You know, the word Onichambara jumped in my head several times, but I don't actually remember what it means. So yeah, Great Teacher Onizuka. It's about a guy who's 22 years old. He tells you like 14 times in the first two episodes that wants to be a teacher real bad, and so it's kind of this. I don't know if he's an everyman, but he's definitely a delinquent who's kind of relatable in some ways, who really wants to be a teacher, and you see the heart of it, but it takes a bit. So let's start with Vicky. What did you like about the GTO?
Like the premise that this maybe reformed, probably not really reformed, 22-year-old reformed enough.
Yes.
But he's interested in being a teacher. Like he likes to help people in his own way. Like that heart of that you were talking about. He's kind of like a jawbreaker where you like get down to the layers, and they're all hard layers, but it's a colorful mix match of like emotion that he shows, mostly in his face in interesting ways by the drawing animators. But it's I like that it's just a fun watch.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, how about you?
Yeah, this show is it's one of those shows that's like wholesome, but it still has that etchiness as well. It has a little bit of everything, you know. Again, it's 1999. The art style, again, with art style, let's say, they're able to do those wacky faces, and I think that's like a nostalgic thing, probably. It feels like if they were to do those wacky faces nowadays, it wouldn't come off as hand drawn or like that. It's a different flavor, I guess, that was only captured back in this old times, right? Because like, you know, the wacky faces that we do now in modern anime don't nearly, like, you can't really compare them to what they did back then. So it's definitely, I feel like more slapstick, I guess. Is that the word I'm using? Like just very in your face, like over exaggerated, but in this different style, I guess. I really like that.
I would even say that there's a weird semblance, and I say this because I think the faces are ugly. The weird semblance between the the exaggerated, but not like super deformed or anything crazy like that face of Onizuka when he gets surprised, and then like the facial designs. I feel like there's a connection between Onizuka's face and how that is expressed, and then initial D's faces, which I think are really ugly when they like do almost everything, and
Mm.
then Attack on Titan, which I think has extremely ugly faces
Oh
more
yeah.
times than not.
Ooh, they brought it back in Italian Titan. That's a good
Yeah.
reference.
So like over that, several years of manga and animation, I'm just like, man, this is some beautiful ugly faces. Ooh. Let me throw in a random one. Ping Pong, the animation. I watched that. That has some art. To put it simply. Anyway, so yeah, what else did you like,
Yeah,
Patrick?
yeah, no, it's just a fun, like Vicky said, it's just a fun story. Again, the first episode is 50 minutes, right? And it is kind of like a little snippet movie of a show. Are the future episodes just because regular like 30 minutes afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's just a fun watch, even with all the, you know, it wasn't even overly like edgy, but it does have those bits in it. But I feel like I think Corey mentioned it earlier that in an earlier episode that it kind of helps drive that story and it adds the edginess serves a purpose, I guess, for the show. And
Hmm.
this is clearly for this, yakuza or this perform gangster, and it deals with that type of material. So and that's like his motivation when in the beginning, let's say. So it totally fits to his character. But yeah, what do you think about that, Corey?
What do I like about Onizuka? Why did I bring
Yes.
this up? I like Onizuka because at the end of the day, it is a show about a guy trying real hard, and I
Mm.
think I just like try hards real bad. I think that's really what it comes down to. Uh, you give me a try hard, and I'm happy all day. What is my easiest um, like, if you're gonna give me something, then I'm probably gonna like it just because I like it. It's gonna be a sports anime or a sports novel
Mm.
or a sports movie. Do I watch sports on a regular basis? No. Do I play sports anymore? No. But darn it, give me a thing about some people competing in a sport, and I'm like, let's go.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, I like Onizuka because once you get past the first like 10 minutes where he's like
Oh boy.
unnecessarily like a horny 22
Oh
year
yeah.
old.
Oh yeah.
You're like, okay, yeah, he just really wants to be a teacher. He wants the kid, and so what really helps is that by the time you get to, I want to say, yeah. So episode 2 is a little more clear as to why he wants to be a teacher, while episode 1 is like, yes, he wants to be a teacher, and this is his style. Because his original impulse is like, I'm just going to be a normal dude and just going to do my job as a student teacher, and like they don't respect him at all. And then once he has the opportunity to kind of just be himself, he gets all of their respect in the most Schadenfreude way, where he just kind of, so basically he gets to dunk some of his most terrible students in the water for an hour, like just straight up tortures his students.
Hmm.
Uh, and then like he thinks he's going to get kicked out of school or arrested or something, and they are like literally cleaning up the entire school because they respect him so much, which I think is at most, if I'm being extremely,
Generous.
that they have at the most generous way is that it's a Japanese idea of respect. One that I don't actually understand from my Western American so on point of view, but it's something that I've definitely seen, and I've had a couple of non-anime cultural like examples of. So, for instance, this is something I've seen in anime, but I actually got a real life explanation. Before World War II, when there was that buildup in Japan to attack America and try and take over parts of South Korea and China, or continue their whatever. Anyway, Imperial Japan was a crazy place. There was a lot of back and forth where the soldiers themselves would commit a crime, like a real crime, just a full-on military crime, and then sacrifice themselves in the name of their love for their country, and then they would be excused for it. And if you watch Japanese anime that is like militaristic in nature, think anything from as broad as like a Code Geass, uh, um, or a Gundam Wing, or Gundam in general, or I'm thinking of one very specifically. Oh shoot!
Is it Macross?
Oh,
No. I wasn't thinking of Minecraft. It came out last year, 2021. It was
the one where the girls turn into ships.
86?
no, no. Shoot! It's based off of a '90s. It's based off of a. It's based off a '90s visual novel, and they made. I kept mentioning it in the podcast, and now I can't remember what it was called. Um, anyway, basically, the point is simple. There's a cultural idea, even if it's weird and outdated and nonsensical or whatever, of if I love my country and I act in a way that is wildly dangerous and out of control, there is a precedent in the past of Japanese militaristic history of being like, you did it for the country, it's okay. And so, like, I feel like to a degree, they take that kind of weirdness and they say, you beat us up. You threatened us. You treated us like crap because you're cool and awesome and strong, and you meant well. You meant well, so that means you're a good guy. And that's how the students responded.
That or he's just a gangster, and they might die next time.
Well, for some students who are 100% prepared to report him,
yeah.
like, they definitely gave up really fast.
Right.
And in a different anime, that never would have happened. That would have been the entire story. Like, how does he get out from under that or something? Because he did not return to that school.
Well, but I think part of it is he gave them that talk during that whole thing that students and teachers are pretty much alike. And him at his most delinquent with those delinquents showed him that there's no difference, and they started like respecting him because he met them on their level,
right,
at their basis level.
And I mean, I like the theory, but I don't think most people respond that way. Like being harmed. They just
That's
don't.
true.
Oh,
well, I mean,
you're stronger than me. I'm gonna follow you now.
Hey, Cori, did you not learn from anime that when you fight your opponent, you become their best friend? Like, come on now. Like, that's just how it works. You learn. You learn with your fists.
So you're saying Piccolo Jr.
Yep. Piccolo.
Vegeta, Chad, not Piccolo Jr.
Boo.
All right, not Demon King Piccolo. Well, okay,
Frieza.
And Boo.
Frieza.
Not
really. So much, but yeah.
I was gonna say Vegeta. I was trying to pick something modern like
Loki. They beat him, and then he joined the good guys.
Wait, which Loki? Which we talking?
Yeah.
Marvel Loki or all the other anime characters named Loki?
Loki's like Vegeta.
Marvel Loki.
Like,
okay.
He's your friend, but he might still betray you, you know.
I was actually thinking My Hero Academia characters, but sure. Basically, all of the main characters in Demon Slayer. But whatever. Anyway, there was another Japanese anime trope that I noted. I was trying. Oh, right, the whole like Yakuza boss who's like, I will do everything for my subordinates, and then the subordinates like literally cry in happiness, and then they want to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
Like that back and forth. Like first off, if that was real, that'd be a great work environment. Let me just say that. But also,
is real.
It's a weird thing that I don't know how like actually true it is, but it does. But anyway, I'm saying the Yakuza ideal that they always throw out in anime is super. It's basically the best version of what a gang is ever, but it's also not real. Like it could never be actually that wholesome because of the criminal element and the cutting off fingers and the forced everything else that happens when you're a criminal organization. Yakuza in Japan is also just a strange thing that I know a little bit about. But anyway, let me just name some things that I like real quick. A Learkin Seal opening
Oh
song.
man, so nostalgic.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, they were good. And then they made the opening to the original Full Metal Alchemist. I was like, yeah. And then I think they had a Bleach opening too. I'm like, guys. Yeah. He's Yakuza Mineta in the first episode. From the purple grape hair dude from
I
My
I
Hero.
I hate that it works.
Yeah.
It's like as he grows up, like Mineta grows up into
100%.
Onizuka.
Like, it's everything that you don't like about Mineta, toned down maybe a little, but then you like give him too much power and it cancels out, and you're like, it's still Yakuza Mineta. Like, there's nothing okay about the way he does it. It's very like, as the lady was like, creeper vibe, but he never actually follows through on it. So we're like, you pass with the C minus. Get out of my office. Like,
D plus.
Look, you don't fail, but if you could do one thing and you would immediately go to jail. So carry on. Yeah, so many crimes. That's what I wrote down.
F plus.
But F plus. But I really, I think it's a fun show. It's a fun show to watch. English or Japanese?
Japanese.
Yeah, I watched it in Japanese. I have not tried it in English, or I haven't tried it in English in like 15 years.
Because I've seen the series before, and I remember it was all in English because I just had it on in like the background, and it's something that draws your eye regardless.
Yeah, for a show that is definitely hand drawn, before like computer animation became like everything. It's pretty good looking. It looks old, but it looks good for how old it is. Vicky disagrees, but I knew she would. Like when he doesn't do his ugly faces, like I don't have a lot of complaints. But it does. It's an old show. It's 23 years old. It doesn't look like it's from 1980. I could show you a couple of those, Vicky. But it's also not like movie quality either. So it's
terrible. It's still a bit more than at this point that I want to like watch just because it's like, I'm past this. It's a bit like when you have a old Nintendo system and you love the games at the time, but you can't go back. And you try and it's just like, oof. It loses that magic.
What? What?
Utena is a classic that everyone should experience once a year.
It's got the same art issues and like pacing issues and other stuff. Anyway,
blasphemy.
Look. I am not saying Utena is bad. I am saying I don't like it.
Yes, he is saying Utena is bad.
Really don't recommend it to anybody, but I know you like it. I know there's a lot of people who like it. It's like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm like, what? What? Give me what?
No, that is a good show. No, that's a good.
Look, I'm not saying it's bad, but I have not got hooked, and I'm in the season 3 for the last 3 years. Look, I made it to India the last time I checked. But yeah, so I bought ZTO, and it actually came in the mail a couple days ago. So I was really excited to get it, and maybe even watch it in English for either the first or second time. I don't remember what I watched it in the first time years ago. But it's one of those shows like, yeah, I will own this because it's a show I liked at the time. I think I watched it like 4 or 5 years after it came out, but it was popular, and I was like, let's find out. And I still think I think it holds up. I think that you're not gonna want to watch it if you want something modern or you want something with a lot of fighting and action. But if you want something with like heart, show has heart.
It has a lot of heart. It's what I mean. I was gonna reference Golden Boy because of the animation and the etchiness with it, but Golden Boy is, I believe, like around the same time, maybe before GTO.
Probably before,
but probably before. But the idea that why I bring it up is that it has, if you watch it, it has that same kind of old nitty gritty anime look, the hand drawn, even with like the colors as well. It has that kind of that darker, kind of gray looking colors as well, I guess. But it's just that show is more for the edginess, like 100% more edginess, but it has a lot of heart. The ending and when you reach the ending, you feel kind of good about the main character.
Okay, so as far as etchiness, Vicky, give me a number for this one.
Or GTO.
Ooh.
GTO.
Yes.
I've been thinking about it, and based on just the first episode,
Mm-hmm.
7.
Yeah, I'll let that fly. That sounds about right.
7?
Yes.
Because it's a bit more than panty shots.
It's a lot bit more than
It's very explicit.
Super suggestive.
Mm-hmm.
Just clear shots of skirts and the thighs.
All right. Let me.
When Onizuka was first there, and he was talking to the other student teacher, and he was like,
"Yep,
you've done this 3 times," and then he holds up his pinky, and it's like,
oh man,
what does this mean?
Kind of problematic in the beginning. The first, I believe, the first shot to the episode is him looking up, skirts. So, but no,
not great.
I agree with Vicky. It's probably like a 7, and because again, there's a lot of suggestive, just the camera angles, let's say, are do the job. Let's say.
Okay. 7 is obscured nudity. We put whatever. We put in things like Kill a Kill, House of the not House of the Dead, High School of the Dead.
Yep.
Food Wars, No Game No Life, and I don't remember what that is. Sekirei maybe.
Yeah, that sounds around the same tier. It might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then under that is stuff like Glepner, Fire Force, High School DxD, and Keijo, which I forced Zane to watch, which was great.
But I'd say the edginess isn't just the physicalness; it's like the verbal as well, where he's like, I don't know in the episodes that come after, if he's still like lusting after high schoolers, but
definitely says 16-year-old wife at 40 like 10 times at least.
Probably.
He is serious about it. Which I think in the context of Japan, I think you can get married to a 16-year-old, even though they're not considered an adult until they're 20 or something.
Yeah, that was variable age.
I do think there was a recent change in Japan to make it lower, like 18. I think I heard about that. But anyway, like age of majority or something. Okay, so I was definitely thinking it was lower, but here's the names just for context. Obscured nudity is a 7. I See You Wearing Less for a 6. Panty Shot for a 5. Ecchi but Wholesome at a 4. And an Innocent Ecchi at a 3. So you both are definitely not going to say 3.
No, it's clearly Cori. There's clearly like multiple panties. The last shot where like that ending shot, very suggestive, and the panties are on his face. Right up there. And I'm like, you did not need to say anymore. Like you clearly, it invoked a certain emotion in you, and you know what he saw. Let's just say, yeah.
I definitely was. My first initial was definitely not a 7, but
I could go down to a 6, but. It's definitely not a 5 though. Come on now, Cori. It's not an everyday normal thing.
So
I was
5
like 6 maybe.
Yeah,
but 7
5 is
for
the
sure.
10th out of the week. So that's like with the expectation of like regular like panty shots, but
right. But how can they be panty shots if the character wasn't wearing any panties?
I mean,
that's why.
Does that mean 4 Patrick? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not 4. Jesus, no. Hey! That's not what I said.
There was him waiting. I don't know if he was looking down to see if her mini skirt would fly up on the motorcycle.
Yes,
but like it's so much is implied. It's so
okay. So just as a huge Ranma fan, if this makes GTO like a 7, the grandpa in Ranma would make Ranma a 7. Like everything else in Ranma is like a 5-ish, maybe a 6 if you're particularly. But the grandpa is worse than Onizuka by
The grandpa's not the main character.
no, and that's a fair. But
Mhm.
I'm just thinking about it because I never thought of. Now I haven't watched it in years, but I never thought of Onizuka as being that bad, and I don't think he stays that bad. I do
Right.
think that this episode he's pretty much like a 22-year-old pervert lusting after
Yeah.
16-year-old.
Yeah.
But by episode 2, he has an adult to
Yeah.
lust over.
No. I mean, again, let's not make this is this an age thing all over again? But no, I don't think Onizuka is that bad at all. I probably will say it's 6. Some people can argue, the 5 or
I
7,
would
but
argue that it's no worse than a 6
yeah.
because I don't think it ever gets worse than what it was. But I
Mhm.
do think that being 23 years in the future, uh, it ain't a good look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just didn't age well.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah. But that being said, like if it's bad now, why isn't it bad then? Blah 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 blah. Point is, I am understandably seeing why you might think it's a 7 based on the first episode of 40 minutes where he literally she takes off her clothes like
Mhm.
put her bra panties so that the other students can take a picture of it. Like that was and I forgot that happened. I just kept thinking something's wrong with her. So Patrick, you had not seen this before.
No, I did see this. And then when he went to go like destroy the wall, I was like, man, I remember that vividly. I remember that moment. I was like, where was this from? This
Yeah,
show was him breaking the wall, literally, not metaphorical, but literally breaking the wall between
between
the
parents.
houses, yeah, parents'
Yeah.
walls, yeah.
So what I was going to ask was, did you feel like she was suspicious? Because I want to say without context, she was always suspicious, but
Mhm.
I knew I had seen this before. I'm like, something's up. I just don't remember what it is, and she is clearly doing
Yes,
something.
look, Corey, if I was, let's say, 16 myself, not suspicious at all. Now that you're 23 years older now, like yeah, it's kind of suspicious.
I'd say not only is she suspicious, she's the most suspicious because the delinquents, their issues are kind of like out. They're like,
Right.
but she could be a good student, probably is, but like she'd had that deep darkness where like she came up with the torture blackmail plan and
Mm.
continued to kind of like mess with Onizuka and like jumped off a motorcycle. That girl had
Mhm.
issues.
Yes, Vicky's
Mhm.
right. See, that girl had lots of issues at that point.
I'm just like, I don't think a hole in the wall is really gonna fix all of her problems.
No, I just had a moment where I'm like, that reminds me of a client I used to know.
Oh boy.
Man, issues. But okay. So Vicky, what didn't you like?
I know you think I'm gonna talk about the animation style,
I
but
mean, we already touched on it, but go ahead. What else
it's
did you like?
it's okay. It's rough in like knowing that the strides that have been made in like drawing and art styles, but it's not like unbearably so. So that wasn't what I didn't dislike it because of that. And I
Mhm.
didn't dislike it in general. Like it's fun. I suppose the thing I didn't like is the etchiness. It was so like like I can get behind a delinquent turn teacher, but just the way he was going about it with like perving after 16-year-olds looking up their skirts on the thing. It was just like, god, like it just didn't age well. Like back when I first saw this, I probably thought it was fine, but like now with a new awareness of like the world and things, it's just kind of like rough. It's just like, oof, did not age well.
I think our B side is why don't things age well? That's I think.
Man, literally it doesn't age well because we aged well. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, ooh,
That's kind of how it is.
there
Like
we
if
go.
we didn't age well, we'd be like, yeah, it's fine. It's all right,
Mhm.
right?
Why didn't he grab their butts? As if we
There's
age.
just
We
there's
age.
just one prominent name that I am like really did not age well. I'll bring it
Yeah,
up in the B side.
gotcha.
But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Mm.
What else? I mean, just the art style.
We get it, Vicky. You can't deal with that. What's your age? What's your year cutoff? Like
I
2005
think I
or
think Vicky has like a moving target.
uh-huh.
As time moves
Yeah,
on,
Yeah,
her desire to look at old stuff just gets worse. So
exactly.
yeah.
like in 20 years, she'll be like, "Ew, 2022. Oh, it's
Oh
so
no, come
old."
on.
Maybe
Look,
like
I remember, I remember when Dragon Ball went from hand drawn to computer generated. It looked
mhm,
so good. And I'll
Mm,
say this: 1996 is approximately the cutoff because Ranma specifically started going to computer generated, especially in their like movies and other stuff, and that stuff looks crisp as all heck.
mhm.
And obviously, once we get enough away from it, it'll look like, oh, I can see the flaws in the old way of doing CGI or
mhm,
CG, whatever. Um, but it looks really good. Like 1996 anime that's CG just looks smoother and shinier. But then that's gonna look weird, and it's a whole thing.
mhm,
There is good hand drawn cartoons. Disney, thank you. But CG is simpler. It's cheaper. It's
mhm.
faster.
Yeah.
Easier. All the
It's
Yeah.
things. So
it's kind of like there's a movement where like I believe like the Ghibli movies, like all those and in like you said,
Mhm.
the Disney movies as well, like all hand drawn, where eventually everyone's gonna go to like the Pixar route or like everything's just 3D models and like Studio Ghibli is gonna be potentially of the past. It'll become, you know, whatever next studio that does it. It'll be just 3D
Vintage.
models, right? It'd be like,
well,
you
like
know, Turning Red or something like that. Like just
the last hand drawn Disney movie that I'm aware of was The Princess and the Frog or Princess Frog or whatever.
ooh, yeah, yeah.
Which good movie. Watch it. Um, I have many opinions about that too. But
Yeah,
uh,
I'm sure you do.
that was the last one, and that was like 2006 maybe. I don't really know. And then I think Ghibli's last hand drawn movie might have been like Ponyo or something. But they're just not doing it. It's maybe not a lost art per se, but it's definitely not a professional expectation.
Mm,
It's like
Um,
writing in cursive. It's
yeah,
mm,
nice, and being able to do it is almost like a mark of like
age.
of both age but also like development. Like, oh, I can do this cool thing that not a lot of people can do
mm.
relatively well. But there's like, differences in the skill level of being able to do it. Not that
Yeah,
I dislike hand drawn animation. I do like some. It's just
it's just old.
Hmm.
it's just old. I don't want to go back to the N64 unless it's to play
Oh,
GoldenEye.
come on.
Just look, I've never been able to quite articulate that, but we'll talk about that at the end and for the B side. What else do you like, Patrick?
Yeah, I guess I guess I would just piggyback off some topics of Vicky as well. I don't mind the art style. I guess I'm kind of open to even watching Ranma and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, this is interesting because I guess it's something new compared. I guess anything that's variety, I kind of enjoy just for the sake of it. Because like being spoiled and watching the modern anime, like it's all crisp and clean, but like going back then, you like kind of like going back to the roots of playing like a Nintendo. That's like it's
Mm-hmm.
like I still have fun playing normal Mario on the Nintendo, but then why play that if you have Super Mario Maker and you could like literally make. And then they even have skins for you to play the 8-bit version of Mario in the nice, pretty world. But yeah, it's just I don't necessarily mind it. I still enjoy it. But I do agree with Vicky that Genus I could deal a little bit without it. Even if I think if I was younger, I'd be like, ooh, it's a little bit, might be a little bit too much for me. It makes me feel I might have felt a certain way back then, and I think I feel that way right now. As when even when I'm at this age watching, I'm like, it made me feel a certain way. I'm like, I don't know about that.
All right. I honestly think episode two probably is a better first episode than episode
Mm,
one. Um, but that's only because in episode two, so this is probably one of those where someone was like, we don't want him to be that bad all the time. So
yeah, yeah.
basically, in episode two, what happens is he's on the train going to interview for a school because he cannot pass the exam, so he had to go to a private school where they don't care about the exam, his teacher's exam. So he's trying to get a job as a teacher, and he's on the train, and there's a female on the train, and he's on the train, and he just kind of is like, oh, okay. And then an old man falls, quote unquote, near her butt, and like starts straight up like sniffing her butt or whatever. And then like the train stops or whatever, and his old man bumps his face into her butt, and the whole thing. So Onizuka's like, oh heck no, and just punches him out the train, like literally, or maybe it's a bus, but he punches him out the train. He's just like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And the guy's like trying to make excuses, and he's like, blah 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 blah.
So that happens in the second episode, and you're saying it's not a 7.
No, it's not a 7. Anyway, it's sexual harassment, but it's not a 7. All right. Anyway, whatever.
A 6 is good.
I think a 6 is higher than I expected, but I can accept the 6 without reservation. I think a 7, I don't know. I would need more. I'd have to watch more show and be like, yeah, I agree, or no, I don't. But based on episode 1, I know why you called it a 7. I completely understand.
Okay.
But I like the show, so I'm a little like, does it have to be a 7? Is it really a 7? I don't know. I'm trying to be reasonable.
Are we gonna have the opposite argument with Vicky and you? Corey, it's clearly a 6. It's not a 5. It's clearly a 6.
But I will,
Vicky, please.
I will without reservation be open to it being a 7.
Okay.
But I'd have to look at more episodes. I don't think we're gonna do that. Anyway,
look at the evidence.
Definitely not Vicky. I don't think Vicky's gonna watch anymore. So,
no, yeah.
Anyway, so the sort of twist, yeah, that's not a committal. Like, not even.
Yeah.
How much did you watch of Skate? Exactly. So, look, if you're at on this and you stopped at like 4 episodes of Skate, I think Patrick, you watched like 3.
No, I only watched 2 on Skate.
Okay,
4 or 5. I got to
not even half the season.
Oh my goodness!
Not even half the season of Skate the Infinity with the pretty boys and the vaguely homoerotic skate party. Like, no. Anyway.
I'm going to finish it also because someone put a great song to the opening. I can't remember what it was, but it was just like this. I forgot about Skate the Infinity.
If you do, tell me how it ends. I want to know if Hisoka just does some weird stuff. Anyway, so basically he gets back to the interview, and guess who's interviewing him? The vice principal is the guy he punched in the face.
Oh, the bald dude.
Yeah, but the lady on the train was one of the teachers. So he's like, oh. So he went from fantasizing about 16-year-olds and marrying them to fantasizing about like having a school romance with the teacher. Like, this is going to sound like a justification because I guess it is. He's just an idiot fantasizing about what he thinks he can get.
That sounds like a normal anime protagonist, you guys.
It kind of does, but that doesn't make it good. It just makes it what it is. So I'm like, Onizuka. Huge pervert? Yes. Redeemable huge pervert? Maybe.
Probably.
Versus some other characters.
Yeah. I guess another random tidbit is that the anime that I would recommend if you don't like this show but you want to watch a show like this is a
Onegai Teacher.
Nope, that is clearly not it. That one is, even though it has the name Teacher in it, 100%
it has
off the rails.
An O and a T. It's pretty close.
Oh, that's... oh man, don't watch that show. I watched that show, and
it's not good.
It's not good. It's the child's. I didn't have anything else to watch syndrome. But you would watch Goku-sen, which is a female version of GTO World. It's a lady Yakuza, I believe, leader, and she's trying to be a teacher, and it's more comedic, I guess. But it's kind of the same idea.
This is exactly the same thing I mentioned in our text messages about a 6-part series where we have like an original.
Yeah. and it's hilarious because this show came out in 2000, I believe, or 2000, 2002. So literally like 3 years after GTO. I mean, it gets made during the time, but like, you know, it's heavily strong themes of lady teacher who's the Yakuza has delinquent classes, and then she gains the respect by being a badass. Pretty much how the formula goes.
Wow. We should have planned this out better and just done that show after this, but whatever.
Ooh,
Right.
that's true. Are we gonna make it a trilogy?
Really?
Or will you make it a
It would
trilogy?
have to be 6 parts because my idea was Trigun, Grenadier, then it sounds like GTO and Gokusen, and then I don't know what the third one, the third double parter is, but that one. Because you have like the thing that made it awesome, and then you have the knockoff, and the thing that make it, and then a knockoff, and the
All
knockoff
right.
can be good, but it has to be like somehow derivative of the other, which is why I thought Trigun Grenadier was a great one because I watched both of those, but then like GTO and Gokusen.
I can't think of a third double thing.
Yeah, I don't know yet, but we'll keep thinking about it. Maybe we'll come back to
Pokemon,
Gokusen.
Digimon. Let's go.
I was thinking that exact thing.
Is
I was
that
like,
is that a knockoff? Maybe,
it's
maybe.
that or
and then I'm
Monster
like,
or
who's
Monster
the
Rancher.
knockoff?
Monster Rancher maybe afterwards, but I don't know what time, like the time frame, like a year afterwards. Monster Rancher is pretty derivative, I feel like, but it's a great show still.
I don't know
I
about
remember
great.
it being a
All right.
show.
Yeah,
But
that's how I knew it. I knew it was a show first before I realized it was a
right.
game.
Like it's a game, yeah.
series.
It is a game.
I had the game 1 and 2.
Good times.
Oh shoot. So anyway, anything else you didn't like, Patrick? Before I get to what I don't like.
Nope. I still approve of it. I think you should still watch it just to experience again, like not necessarily the origins, but a good like mark of what started this Yakuza teacher, anime, I guess.
What I didn't like, like I said, I don't actually like the pervy 22-year-old student teacher situation. He is super fantasizing about it, but I feel like that doesn't go very far. So maybe it does, and I just don't remember, which is a problem, I guess. But it is one of those shows where I'm like, you know what? This is actually kind of fun. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. It's got something going for it, but it is old, and the art style and the ugly faces are definitely what they are. It's not so old that I think you shouldn't watch it, but I don't think you're gonna love it unless I don't think this is a show that people love. I think this is a show that people enjoy a lot. I think it sits at that like 80 or maybe even 85. But it's like it's never going to be like top anime of anything. But it is going to be like, yeah, that was a good show. Like everyone's like, yeah, it was good. But they're like, why? Cause feelings.
Yeah, I think like it left its mark, but like, and then because like you're saying there are other parts to the show, but we only know about his teacher life apparently. Like we don't. I mean, I haven't explored more than that, But there are other materials that has his other previous arcs in his background, but this is the one that you watch, I guess, of his life, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like when I watch the show, that it's a show that's like, it's really easy to watch because it's like, there's no complicated plot. There's just like, there's plot. It's not complicated so far. You just boom, 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 boom. And it's kind of like popcorn, but without as much action. Like it's not, it's just, I find it hard to describe why I like the show other than it's got heart.
Mm-hmm.
Dude cares about his teachers. He's a try hard. He tries hard. He's kind of dumb. And, like in episode 2, what really makes it like meaningful is he's like, look, I had teachers who all they did was call me stupid and dumb and trash and I'd never be anything. And so of course I'm gonna do that because that's what all you expected from me, so that's all I'm gonna do. And then Onizuka's like, that's exactly the opposite of what I want. I want everyone to know that they can succeed, they can be good something, they're worth it, all of that. And I'm like, amen. I agree. Be my teacher, please. Like, I'm like, yeah, everyone wants their teacher. If you ever had a teacher who made you feel like you were worth something, that's it. That's it. And if I can put that in the world, if you can put that in the world, if GTO can put that in your world, that means a lot. It means a lot to you. So everybody should have at least one teacher like that before they get out of high school. Preferably before they get to high school, but at least by the time they get to high school, because that's going to help you be a better person, student, all of that. if you take it to heart. And so Great Teacher Onizuka kind of gives you that in a weird way, because it really does like make him extremely human before making him kind of awesome. And that's it's a conflict, because you're like, yeah, this is not a great show. This is not a great human being. But it is a great show, so whatever, I don't know.
Right. The end of the episode really like bring it home. I totally remember that. Like honestly, every lesson, like if I could watch the show and watch only the third half, I mean like the last 5 minutes where I get the wrap up, I'm like, give me a cut of all those good speeches and everything. Like that's gonna be the part of it that you sticks to you. Because like again, for this episode, it was 50 minutes, and all I remember that sticks in my mind is him breaking that wall and that whole metaphor of breaking the walls between people and of the parents, right? And like him helping his students at all costs, right? I'm like, yeah, that's amazing, and that sticks with you. So
It's a bit like if South Park took place on Sesame Street, where it's raunchy and a bit problematic, but if you look past it, it's got really great moments of actually trying to mean something. But man, when they go raunchy, it just goes so etchy.
Okay, so as far as the raunchiness goes, right? This is where it does get really bad. So the I don't remember her name, the girl in the class.
yep,
She starts like she basically is like, target, got him, like, and she's kind of very very vaguely flirtatious. I don't even know if I want to call it flirtatious, but then in class she is flirtatious, and then he I don't know how they make sure that she meets him out in public, and then she goes as far as taking off her underwear at least once, if not twice, in the entire show. Throws it in his face.
He did do twice.
yep.
Gets on his motorcycle with her panties off, as far as he knows, and that's just her whole deal is like, how can I, But the guy who's trying to like train Onizuka on how to get a 16-year-old, he gets fired. Like,
Right.
they don't say he went to jail, but he definitely gets fired, like kicked out. So there are like obvious repercussions for being, a creep and going after kids. So it's not like the show condones it, but it does like not it
Like here's the thing. I think Onizuka, right? Like he's the guy who thinks of the fantasization, right? But he never goes through it. Like he doesn't have the boss, even though he's the badass. But then he knows he can do it. But he's like, but I gotta like not. I gotta be a good guy. Honestly, like he had his Yakuza back like past, but like I think that's kind of like his rules. Like he's kind of maybe thought of like, okay, I know I can do this, but like, and he fantasized it throughout the whole series, but I don't think he ever really like, and that's what makes us root for him. He's like, oh yeah, stay on the path, be a good teacher, and that's it. It's just the monologues. We're like, ugh.
It's just a more etchy Higehiro.
Yeah, Higehiro. Right, Cori's favorite show. Just kidding.
He's got the temptation, but he's good enough to not go through with it. Like he might have the thoughts of it and the like fantasies of it, but he wouldn't actually do it.
I think what it is that he's a flawed character. He's supposed to be a flawed character. He's an interesting flawed character, and his flaw, at minimum, other than being a former delinquent or whatever, is that he has an opportunity and he considers it, and he just doesn't take it when he thinks he can. Because there's a clear, obvious opportunity for him to like try to do something with this 16-year-old girl when she purposely takes off all her clothes but her underwear so that she can get compromising pictures of him to threaten him for money. But then he's already like, wait a minute, this is a terrible idea.
Right.
Like he actually was like in a wolf costume, which was obviously done for comedic effect. And he's like, this is stupid. And he like cleans it all up and puts it away and takes off the costume. So it's like he is a 22-year-old man who thinks that it's like kind of awesome. But then he's like, when the actual opportunity that he thinks anyway presents itself, he's like, this is a terrible idea. What am I doing?
I just wanted to say Vicky brought the best example because when she said Higehiro, I'm like, it's the exact same thing with every anime character protagonist who has those thoughts, right? And but for Higehiro, it's like, come on, dude, I know you gotta say no. Just say no. As a viewer, you're like, just say no. And he does say no. I'm like, my man says no again. Congratulations, we move on. The show is not canceled. We keep going. But with Great Kichi Onizuka, I guess it's kind of the same thing because again, older guy, 16-year-old or whatever student. I don't see that big of a difference between those two shows. I mean, in that premise, let's say there's obviously more things and backgrounds and the characters, but the premise of that, Higehiro is like he's also probably 27 or 30 or whatever, and he has the same monologue where like, man, she is cute though, but I really shouldn't do this, but man, she's cute. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a whole bed thing. Like the girl tempts him, but like I don't know if I don't know what my point was, but the point was saying that like it's still the same trope where the guy's like still tempted, but then we're like, yes, don't fall into the temptations, dude. Like you're better than this.
I think the main difference is that because Onizuka doesn't have that same temptation all the time, that the story is a different story. Unless I don't remember. I could obviously he could in episode 3 go right back to it. But I think that the first episode was like a setup so that the other guy could be a cautionary tale.
For sure.
Then he could be like, yeah, whatever, and move on. Because his real goal is not to have sex with 16-year-olds. His real goal is to be a teacher who's good at reaching students who are hard to reach. And I think that's the point of it. It's like this guy had his own struggles, and now he wants to help people who also might have struggles. And he had a momentary lapse of thinking like, you know what? If I was 40 years old and I could marry a 16-year-old, that'd be awesome. Because I'm sure at most there are some people out there who's like, if I was 40 years old and I could marry a legally adult young woman, I would. Pointing at anybody.
Pointing at Craig.
Yeah, we're pointing at Craig. Definitely no one else. Definitely
He's a bear.
No one else.
Come on now.
We're pointing at Craig Pot. We're not. Patrick and I are not talking about anyone else at all. So, I'm very confident that there are many men who, in the back of their minds at least, would be like, if I could marry an 18-year-old when I'm 40, that'd be awesome. That sounds like a long time to wait and a waste of your time. But whatever. Cinderella's aren't real either. So ultimately, I think that it's a show that I enjoy. I would recommend it with some warnings, some content warnings, at least the first episode. And I would just say, like, look, if you're in for if you can make it through the first episode and not feel like gross, then you'll like the rest of the show, because I don't think it ever gets that bad again. But if you're worried about a 7, why are you listening to our podcast? We talk about things that are 7s all the time.
Or challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm gonna feel gross watching this. That's the first episode. I'm gonna feel a certain way. That may not feel gross, but like it makes you.
I think the difference between I think especially for me, there are immediate consequences for bad behavior. Like, it's not like 3 episodes later somebody's like, "Ooh, police." It's like by the end of the episode you're like, "Yep, that guy's in jail. You almost got framed for sexual assault of a teenager. You guys tried to blackmail a teacher and he dunked the crap out of you. Your house got broken into because you're a crazy person. You need mental health treatment. Your parents suck because they got rich and you got problems." But, and then he stopped being their teacher. Like, everything that was a problem got resolved.
Yeah.
And moved on to the next phase of his career. And so I think that that's kind of better for me, because if people just get those, and again, this is anime, so it helps, but you get that instant karma, I'm like, yeah, give them some consequences. Let them learn from their stupid ideas. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So, or maybe when I was 20 or whatever, when I watched this, that doesn't make sense. Younger than that. Whenever I watched this, I was more like, whatever, it's fine. Moving on. Ignore that part. Japan. So, Patrick, you gonna watch any more of Onizuka?
I probably will pass on this one. I think I did watch more, like at least the first 3 episodes. I remember like the old principal dude. But I don't think I actually finished it. So, and it's like 43 episodes, I think.
43 episodes, according to my little box set here. Yeah. Vicky, did you say there was a voice actor or something that was a problem with the show?
Not this one.
Oh, I thought you said something about the dub or something or something.
Oh no. I was saying there's a name for later about things not aging well. But I'm pretty sure I've seen all of GTO as well.
And would you watch it again?
If I had like nothing else on, like if I had like Pluto TV on and it was like GTO marathon, I wouldn't turn away.
I would say this. GTO, to my memory, is very episodic. There are some like arcs, but it's mostly kind of mini arcs, like 2-3 episodes max. So I think it's a good show to binge or not binge watch. I think it's a good show to leave on in the background, especially if you're gonna like listen to it in English and do some other stuff. I think it's really good for that. I think that if you watch the first episode and you're just like, I'm into it, then yeah, watch the show. Give it your full attention. If you're kind of like in the between, but you still want to like kind of get the general gist of the show, I say yeah, definitely leave it on in the background. It's a good show, not a great show, not the best show. But yeah, I'm probably not going to watch any of it for a while. But obviously, I bought the DVD. It's on Crunchyroll. I think the audio quality on Crunchyroll was either really bad or something happened on my end. But whatever, I got the DVD now. So yeah, I enjoy Great Teacher Onizuka. I think it's a good show. Even if it's not a great show, and I think it's at least a 6 on the ecchi. Maybe even a 7 if more stuff happens. Because if more stuff happens, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, fine, it's a 7. So it's an unusual 7 because it's all like panties and implied stuff, and it's not as aggressive as more modern stuff is.
Yeah.
That would be considered a 7. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I think as a 7, it's a little bit strong. Because I honestly, when I asked you that question, I'm like, is it like a 4, 5? And you both were like 7. I'm like, oh,
I would say 6.
okay.
Now.
Woo.
I'll settle
All
for
right.
6, but I'm like 7 feels accurate.
As always,
Yeah.
add 2 points to Vicky. That's right.
And that is weird that I'm like so much lower than Vicky and Vicky's so much higher. That is a weird.
That's the weird thing.
Weird,
That's true. That's true.
but yeah. Anyway, I definitely think that when it comes to shit like anyway, that's a different conversation we don't need to have. So that was our show. That was the first half. That's our A side. That's our katsudan. That's our meat with a little bit of rice. And now we're gonna have a little bit of extra pickles or maybe some sliced carrots. This is our B side. So, what does it mean for things to be, aged poorly?
Got poorly.
One name, 2 words.
Oh boy.
Bill Cosby.
Oh boy. We're going
Mic
there.
drop.
We're going there.
Mic drop.
That's aged poorly. I think that's just crimes revealed.
I think it's a good show still. That's the thing. It's not aged poorly.
Like, nobody's watching the Cosby Show being like, "Oh my God, look at him like endorse doing these terrible things."
Right. I think the person aged poorly, but the show still pretty good show. I mean, I don't know.
The show is good. I mean, like the person, like when they say don't meet your heroes, I feel like heroes age poorly. Like even if it's like the revelation of things from their past or maybe even present still being terrible, but to have this idea of someone being awesome and great and like a good person, and then like over time something happens where it's like, ugh, that I feel like that's aging poorly.
Yeah, I just realized I made the argument of separating the artist from it's his work, right? Like the show, the content is great, but the
Yeah,
person itself is
not
the
so good.
problem.
Like Harry Potter.
I mean, nowadays you could just say a name or a show or a song and maybe like probably aged poorly in some way. You don't know really. um, yeah, that's an interesting question, Corey.
Okay, I think that when we talk about aging poorly, we don't generally talk about people.
No, you're
I
thinking
think
more
it's a
like
little
of
bit
a medium.
right. I
Right.
think I think if I put out a book that says that something innocuous, uh, green chairs are the devil, like something just completely ridiculous.
Hmm.
That is a weirdly strong opinion,
But that is true though.
and
I'm just
and
kidding. I'm just kidding.
and if in 100 years, like we were going to do something and it was going to be really important that we recognize the importance of green chairs, then my opinion would age poorly,
Hmm.
right? So obviously, if we take something from like 200 years ago, where if you're a certain race in a certain country or a certain religion in a certain country or a certain group of people in a certain country, it doesn't really matter. People tend to be very prejudiced against the other. And so I think that whenever you create media or even, doctrine based on that, if if people change as we tend to do, if societies change as they tend to do, it's going to age poorly if it is restrictive about something that actually causes no harm,
Hmm.
Hmm.
right? Now, if it does cause harm, it usually doesn't age poorly because incest has been a bad idea for a really long time, and that's not going to change. And the simplest reason why incest is bad because it causes uncontrolled mutations that are horrible for the person who has to live with them. That is the purest and simplest argument against incest as an example. There are obviously other reasons, but that's the easiest one.
If you don't have a kid from incest,
Stop. Stop. Vicky,
Like I
first
said,
of all, that's my
there are
argument.
stop it.
How dare you take
Jesus.
my argument and claim it as your own? This is gonna age poorly,
Oh,
Corey. This is gonna age
talking,
poorly.
talking to nerds is exhausting. God,
Oh man.
you both of
Corey,
you had to go there. My God, like I said, it's the easiest one. It's not the only one. God,
Corey, as a joke,
yeah,
our
yeah.
podcast is gonna age poorly.
Oh man,
Some of
man.
our opinions here might age poorly. I mean, okay.
Look,
This awful
look.
comedy
The
disclaimer.
only person who. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, disclaimer. Just awful comedy. Sorry. Continue, Corey.
flavor.
The only
The
person
opinions
who's
expressed are not the opinions of the expressee.
Oh
the
man.
opinions expressed by each host are not the opinions of Otaku Katsu, which is consisting of all three hosts.
Exactly. Oh man.
No, but in all seriousness, like, yeah, when I think of age poorly, I just think about when people hold values, and those values are usually either restrictive of someone else or just straight up some kind of prejudice. Um, my opinion on the sexual content of an anime is more just about like what do I want to see, what don't I want to see, and what do I think projects the kind of world I want to exist.
Mhm.
And maybe that's unfair to the show, maybe it's not, but if the whole world is fun is full of shows like Redo of Healer, I'm gonna be a lot less excited, and I think there's gonna be a lot of people being like, "It's normal because I see it all the time," and that's not okay. And yeah, if there's one out there every now and again, a Goblin Slayer, Redo a Healer, so on and so forth, yeah, I'm gonna be like, "Yep, it's another one of those." And, I'm always going to take Idaten and be like, Idaten's great, even though there's that one part of that one episode and the beginning of the next episode. But those guys are the bad guys, and it's not a regular occurrence, and they're not trying to justify it or show it all the time or anything else. So I live with that. So I don't know. There's no good answer. There's no perfect answer. But I know for me personally, I just try to be consistent. If I fail at that, then that sucks.
I feel like if I made a supercut of Redo of Healer without like the controversial parts, you would really like it. But maybe not.
So I actually heard someone say something about some shows recently where like the hero doesn't do anything that they're supposed to do. Like and they specifically were like, in Redo a Healer, the guy does everything but heal.
Well,
I thought that was a good point.
Not the hero.
I mean, he does heal.
The protagonist.
He does heal. It's different ways. No, I'm not even
He
joking. Like he does
transmogrifies.
different types of healing, though, right?
He
Heals
transmogrifies.
himself.
He heals the girl, hit her arm back, right?
That happened.
He healed. He corrupted healing. It's a type of healing, but
He had some wounds of himself that he healed.
Basically, he Deadpools everybody, but it doesn't look as gross. He just goes, here, I'm going to accelerate your growth and make you look like something else, or blow your face off, or... Anyway. Redo a Healer.
I mean, hot take. I don't know if that show... Like, I wouldn't even consider that show as aging poorly. It's just, that's what the show is about, right? And like...
Redo a Healer?
Redo a Healer, yeah. Like, if like 20 years from now, I'll be like, man, that's a weird show. And like, again, it's not everyone's taste. But I'm not even sure if I would even consider that show aging poorly, because it's just that show. Like, it's meant for that, and the purpose is for that. But like, I think to Corey's point, where like if it was like an opinion or something that was more like controversial in that sense, like you said, like all green chairs are the devil and not like, or all these people cannot do this type of thing because they're the devil. I'm like, okay, that might age poorly, but the content of the Redo Healer, let's say, meant for it to be that, it can't. Well. Can it age poorly if the purpose is to be that way? Like, like it was intentionally to be this way.
I think what you're basically saying is Redo of Healer, and you can say I'm wrong, either of you, but Redo of Healer is kind of a raunchy show, and it can't age poorly because that's what it is.
Yes, it's intentionally doing that. I think if it was, man.
Raunchy?
I mean, it's a clear 9, 10. It's up there.
I have a very strong connotation with what the word raunchy means because of the people who said it. That's like that's how I was a kid. So I understand if your first impulse is like that's not right, but I do feel like broadly the term raunchy or ecchi or just hypersexualized applies to Redo of Healer.
I see. So I was like, GTO, that's raunchy. That's just fun.
Yeah, probably. I never thought of Redo of Healer that way, but like I'm like, you're not saying anything that's incorrect, so I can't argue. Because when a 16-year-old throws the panties at her student teacher in any other show, what does that mean? It is. Yep, that's what that is. Especially because it wasn't like a one-off, like haha, no, it was like she's doing this on purpose. She's like flashing him at the end of like it's very clear what they're going for. So, yep, can't argue against it. You have said no wrong thing, so I can't say anything about it.
Also, we were all saying that GTO kind of aged poorly because of its content, where it's like, oof, back then it was fine to watch, and now it's not so fine. But it's not so much that it's not so fine, because it's fine to watch. It's the same reason people watch, like, against South Park or any other thing that is its content. It's just we as a person have changed in such a way that it's not as tasteful to us anymore. So like it's like not finding the same jokes funny as you did when you were a teenager. Like it was funny as hell at the time, but now you've probably changed enough as a person that you're like, that's not what I want to find humorous anymore.
If enough people say it aged poorly, then it has aged poorly. But if no one said it aged poorly, then it doesn't age poorly. Is it like more of a society thing versus that? I mean, honestly, if we didn't say GTO the panties thing, if all three of us said GTO thing panties thing, we're like, oh yeah, no, that's just edgy. That's normal. We have that in normal harem anime as we do right now, right? We do, right? But it's like I don't know the context of the show. He's a teacher. He's a 16-year-old. Like there's more elements that play into it. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's a little more touchier subject, let's say, because of
I
the
wonder if it's
Patrick, if an anime ages poorly in the woods, does it age poorly?
I don't think so. Who
It doesn't.
who says it is? If there's no one saying it, then like if we don't all agree, okay, if 51% of the people agree, then it did. We need to have the majority. There's gonna have a democracy recital rule of this.
I guess so.
And it will change depending.
I think that Vicky makes a very good point that in GTO, what makes it a 7, I think, what you're both saying is like he's in the beginning of the show, he's literally looking up girl skirt under an escalator, like just just because he imagines dating 16-year-old girls and then eventually marrying them as their teacher, like for 80% of the show. The girl throws himself at it or comes to his house and he is immediately like, let me get the futon ready so we can get down to business. And then he changes his mind very last second before she literally throws her clothes off in her underwear and like jumps on him like with that suggestive activity. And then after that, she jumps on his microcycle and she throws her panties at him and the whole nine. And he's just like, this is great, but wait, and then eventually he's like, never mind, I got more important walls to smash. So basically, all of that together is like, would we want to watch a show today where a teacher type figure, authority figure, did that? And would we think that was okay? No, I don't think we think it's okay. Will we watch it though? Probably. I think we probably would because we have stuff that's more explicit, and we have stuff that is also like authority figures have control over young girl. Like we have all of those qualities now. I think watching an old show and be like, ooh, I feel like the only difference is that GTO is not fantastical at all, and so it's more real. I think Higehiro isn't fantastical at all, so it's more real. But Redo of Healer or that Skeleton Knight, like apparently that first episode's pretty Goblin Slayer-y, Goblin Slayer, interspecies reviewers, all of that stuff. It's somewhere between the fantastical where we can suspend our disbelief a little easier, and so we're just like, it's for the revenge or whatever. While if it's GTO, you're just like, dude, come on. I explained the plot of Old Boy to Zane, and he's like, why would I watch that show?
Oh my goodness.
He's never seen it?
He'd never seen it.
Zane
He'd only seen the fight scene. He'd
Watch
only
the
seen
original.
Yeah, I told him about the original. He'd only seen the famous fight scene, and thus he was like, "Oh, that sounds super," and then I told him what the whole story is, and he's like, "Why would that ever? Why?"
But the point of Old Boy isn't to watch knowing that twist happens. It's to watch and then experience
the revenge.
Yeah,
it is. It clear. No. It's not a joke.
That is a clear revenge.
Clear revenge story.
100%. That is a revenge story without a doubt. It is the
ultimate revenge on both sides.
Yeah, that's top tier revenge on that one.
But it's a good movie.
It is.
Yeah. Versus Redo of Healer, which is not either a movie or good. So I would say that what makes something, I keep losing the phrase, age poorly. What makes something age poorly is when the intent is to display quote unquote normal acceptable behavior. And then as time passes, we look at that and we're like, that normal acceptable behavior is not okay. Mm-hmm. And obviously not everyone's going to agree with that because you're going to have somebody 200 years in the future like, back in the good old days. And you're like, no, just because it helps you does not mean that that's not a problem to someone else. And yeah, you do have to care about other people. That's how society works.
Right, right. When you bring the argument of, back in the medieval days or back in Greece, we did these things. I'm like, well, it's been 2,000 years or so. Like, it's been quite a
I
progress
mean, look, we
of
don't
time.
stone people for the most part. There's a
Right.
reason for that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just because we ran out of stones. So, yeah, I think that at the end of the day, Great Teacher Onizuka is good. Did it age poorly? Yeah, a little bit. I don't think it aged as badly as like something from 200 years ago would have, because the social views, especially in Japan, are kind of the same. Women get accosted on the bus and no one does anything about it. Women get accosted on the train and they have special trains for women at certain times of day, but no one does enough about it. Teachers worldwide, not just in Japan, have too much access to their students sometimes, and nobody does enough about it apparently, or at least sometimes. I don't want to exaggerate because stuff happens, but not everything happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This could be the GTO. He could be in America or something. Like, honestly, it just you never know.
Honestly, because even in my school,
Oh boy,
teacher too much access for the student.
you had a great teacher,
Really?
Onizuka.
Mhm.
Or no, the opposite. You had the other guy. You had the guy who got fired.
No, the thing is, he was a great teacher, but like not great enough, not a great person.
He was great teaching Onizuka, but he fell to the temptations. You see,
He failed the temptation.
he didn't become the great teacher.
That's
There
exactly.
you go. Exactly.
That's exactly it.
We only have him in anime. Only in anime we can have nice things.
A weird question. I apologize if this is inappropriate. Was he one of your teachers?
He was one of my teachers.
And he was a good teacher, but he was a little too interested in the student body.
From what I heard, from what was revealed after I left high school, yes,
Oof.
he was in a specific student body. Student's body.
The puns are too much for me to not.
Yep.
Say female body, but I didn't want to be.
Hey, that's very progressive of you. You didn't say that.
I try.
Very progressive.
It would only be better if he was a biology teacher, but he was not.
Oh, that would have been hilarious.
Nice.
All right. No, it wouldn't have been. I'm sorry.
No. So yeah. Wait.
Still,
that aged
poorly. Poorly aged immediately.
Immediate.
That went to a 17 to 18 right away. Like, bam. Oh, man.
Yeah, I think that things that age, or when we say things age poorly, it's more about if the behavior was normal or considered normal by the author. There's a lot of intent that we have to infer here at the time. Because obviously, if you think it's okay to call adult women doll, right? It's gonna age poorly. It's just gonna, because we don't do that. You call black people coloreds. There was a point where that was appropriate. Don't do that. Don't do that today. Mm-hmm. Don't do that tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. That's gonna age poorly. Every time I watch Blazing Saddles and I see everyone say the N-word, I'm like, man, I wish they didn't do that. But I get it. And I kind of like Mel Brooks a whole lot, but boy, do they say the N-word a lot.
Blazing Saddles, great movie.
Oh, that's a crazy movie.
See? And that's where it comes from. It's like, we got to deal with the reality that people are complicated.
But does it age poorly, though?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it aged poorly, but man, do they say the N-word.
I wanted to make the argument that if it's like Cori's made a good point, like, it's about the author's intent, like, clearly meant to be comedic, then things are like, oh, it's, people can be a little bit more, give those a pass more. Like, for example, for Great Teacher Onizuka, like, maybe they want to do that so they can make him show the funny faces or make him react a certain way or, like, even have nosebleeds, right? Like, that's for huge comedic effect. But, like, it's still somewhat problematic when you're dealing with, the context of the teacher relationship, right? But people could argue that it's just for comedic effect, and that's what they wanted to do because it's funny.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot with comedy, but even then, sometimes you're just going to upset a lot of people.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes those people get on the stage and smack the shit out of you.
I knew exactly where you're going to go with that.
And I didn't know how to work in a Chris Rock reference, but yeah, Will Smith did that. Definitely did that.
Either smack you or they could potentially jump on the hall and tackle you.
Yeah, that was a weird video too.
Yeah.
I was like, "What were you like?" That guy just did it. I don't know what was wrong with that guy. That guy
pull out a weapon straight out of Final Fantasy.
A fake gun.
He had
with
a
nice
blade.
projectile.
He had a gun blade.
What?
A literal gun blade. He had like a. Oh my goodness! Look at him.
Man, can you be go back to being 22 and tell me if that happens? Nope. He was. I think they said he was 22 years old. What?
Yeah. Oof.
Stop watching anime, dude. Calm down. Anyway, so I think we have gotten to a good point. We know what aging poorly is. Do we have any disagreements on my definition? I don't want to be the.
I think that's pretty solid. The more you talk about it, it's like, yeah, I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Good talks.
All right, cool. Well, Vicky, is it your week next week?
It is, and I think I'm just gonna pick the Gokusen.
Ooh, okay. Yay!
Good.
We can either do the triple trilogy or triple duo.
Triple duo.
Let's go with triple duo because I can't think of what is it, double for 6.
Yeah, we can either split them up or like just start the train now and hope we find a third.
Man, that's true.
We got at least 3 weeks to find a third. Because Trigun and let me just say this about Grenadier, okay? It's 12 episodes long, and the main character is a big, blonde, busty gunslinger. Don't expect it to be any more than what that sounds like it is, because that's what it is. But it's also Trigun. It's literally Trigun, but that. Look, I can say with confidence that half the stuff we have talked about, anybody who listens to it probably hasn't watched all of it. I'm a little surprised that all 3 of us has watched GTO because again, GTO is like a super mid-tier anime, and I mean that in the old sense, not in the new colloquial sense where everything is mid. But it's very much like a middle of the road, good show. But I just don't know people who talk about it ever. I just know I heard about it like 15 plus years ago, and then I found it and watched it.
It like came out and everyone watched it, and then just kind of.
Which again, like at the time was not normal. Like you didn't marathon shows. They came out once a week and you had to find a way to watch it. And that stuff had a tail. Like in America, you were watching a show for some time and you probably weren't watching the whole show all at once. You had to wait to get it and you had to wait for it to get translated. And it just took time. So in 2000, when this show would have been relatively easily accessible by like subbers in America, like they would have taken a month to release one episode unless they were like a speed subber. Speed subbers only really did the big shows. Naruto was big in 2003, so there weren't a lot of speed subbers then. So I think GTO just would have taken forever to come out in America unless it was dubbed by let me see who did this. I think it said Disco Tech Media, whoever that is. Eastern Star, never heard of them either. Yep. I don't know who the American version of this was originally. Maybe them, maybe not, but yeah, it probably came out in 2001, 2003 in America, and they sold it for $60 for 10 episodes and did it 4 times. All right, so we've gotten so off track talking about the intricacies of life, the universe, and everything. Remember, the secret number is 42, but if you're special, you know the real answer to the universe is the color purple. So, with that, we are going to watch Gokusen as our new series that we just invented in the last since we last recorded, and hopefully Trigun and Grenadier in the near future, and a third mystery one that I'm probably going to have to look up because I don't think I know of one, and neither does Patrick or Vicky.
Well, it's going to be a weird one.
It's on you, Vicky, though. Come on, if you can think of the one, and then we can find a copycat, it'll be all right. That being said,
I think Mariah and Nikki has to have a copycat.
Will we say that's the original, though?
It's one or the other. It's the copycat or it is copycatted.
Because I feel like Mirai Nikki, okay, we'll talk about it later, but unless we really want to talk about it now and record it, but we can talk about it later. That being said, I am your host, Cori. We watched GTO episode 1. I watched episode 2, watched 1 and 2. It'll take an hour and a half. And I am here to teach you greatly. Here's Patrick.
I am the great teacher, Patrick. You could call me GTP.
And then we have our wonderful and always necessary third host who is not late today, and I appreciate it so much, Vicky.
I'm the delinquent that lives in the shadows with the Fudanchi.
It works every
you're
time.
A Fudanchi now. You're a Fudanchi, not a Fujoshi. You're a Fudanchi.
Fudanchi. Orewa Fudanchi, yes.
We're going to change Vicky's pronouns so that Vicky can be a
Bokuwa. Bokuwa.
All right, I'll use Itachi.
God. Oh my God. So, all right. Here's what we need, all right? I'm just going to keep extending this episode unnecessarily. All right, so pronouns are of some importance, maybe not to everybody, but I think that just to confuse and annoy anyone else who cares, we just start using random Japanese pronouns and no one will know what they're talking about anymore. That's it. Just, oh, yeah, my pronoun is boku.
Ooh, and I like instead of calling yourself male, you can just say boku.
No one will know. No one will know what the... Look, I get called because of my first name and profession, because both of them are well, my first name is unusual, so nobody. But my profession is highly skewed towards female, so I get called female like all the time. I got pronouns in my email, and they still call me Miss, and I'm like, I'm a dude.
The disrespect.
Ooh.
Like, if they hear me over the phone, they'll be fine. But it's like emails, like they're like Miss. I'm like
Miss. Yeah, right. Okay, no, I was gonna say
so much.
Yeah,
because if you roll the dice, 99% of the time, my profession, it's like I'm not a nurse, but if I was a nurse, you could guess I was a woman and probably rewrite 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your last name also is. I could see that being more.
Well, I don't know if my last name does anything. I think last names are generally they're gender neutral. I can't think of a last name that I would think is, unless it's like literally your last name is Jacob, but that's irrelevant.
I didn't know a Cori with a K. That was a girl.
Oh, there's a ton of Coris. That's the thing. My name isn't actually Cori. That's just the nickname based on my full name, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, you have your full name and they're still...
All the time.
Really?
My
first name isn't really.
My first story about my first name is I went to kindergarten and the teacher had balloons on all the desks and they were blue and pink and they gave me a pink balloon. I'm like, where's my blue balloon? No, first I was like, where's my desk? And they're like, I'm like, blue balloon, blue balloon, blue balloon. Where's my desk? They're like, oh, where is your desk? Oh, and did I get a blue balloon? No. Am I mad about it to this day? Yes. Did I like that teacher a lot? Also, yes.
You know what?
This is what you're in the profession you're in.
Yes. You know what? She did you a good favor because now you become who you really are. But I'd have to say your first name, full name, like, come on. There's two boy names. I mean, it's like, right? It feels like, it sounds like it just... It's crazy.
Right?
That's an Ore name. That's like you would use Ore as for that one.
Look,
like,
look. I'm just saying, Boku Wakuma, all right? Come on. Look, her music is great. All right. So that being said, anything else? Because I'm gonna say bye.
Bye.
Johnny.
I'm still saying bye.